Is there someone else in your heart? I stared at his exhausted face. He did not even open his eyes. He simply rolled over and muttered, "Don't start. I'm tired." But his phone screen was still glowing, and his boss's name flashed across it with a new message, "I still miss you tonight." I took screenshots, saved them, and forwarded them, all in one smooth motion. The next day, the company fired them both. I took my son and moved into a new home. The moment the door shut behind us, my phone rang. It was a message from his boss's ex-husband. "Are you really willing to let them off that easily? My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old, and I've been married for 7 years. My husband, Jason, was a mid-level manager at a privately owned company. For the past 6 months, he kept saying he was buried in a major project. He worked late almost every night, stumbled home around midnight, and collapsed on the couch without even taking a shower. At first, I believed him. Then one night, he went to shower and left his phone on the coffee table. The screen lit up. A message popped up, "Did you make it home? You worked so hard today. Have something warm to drink." The contact name was Ms. Reed. Vanessa Reed was his direct supervisor. She was 35, divorced, and known around the office as someone who always got what she wanted. I stood in front of the coffee table with sweat pooling in my palms. Common sense told me not to look. My finger had already tapped the screen. I scrolled upward through a wall of flirtatious messages, everything from "You looked so handsome today" to "I miss you so much I can't sleep," followed by things I never wanted to read a second time. I stood there trembling from head to toe. Jason came out of the bathroom, drying his hair as he walked toward me. "Why are you just standing there?" I looked up at him. It was the same face I had known for years, but all at once it felt terrifyingly unfamiliar. "Your phone went off." I handed it to him. He glanced at the screen without so much as blinking. "Oh. There's a problem with the project Ms. Reed's team is handling with us. The group chat's been blowing up." "Is that right?" He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I said nothing else. I turned, walked into the bedroom, closed the door, and gripped the edge of the comforter until my knuckles hurt. I did not sleep that night. Those messages replayed in my head over and over, every word pricking my heart like a needle. I wanted to storm out and confront him. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to tear the whole marriage open right then and there. But I didn't. Because I knew yelling would get me nowhere. If I was going to accuse him, I needed proof he could not explain away. The next morning, Jason kissed me before leaving for work and smiled. "You look beautiful today, babe." I smiled back. "Don't stay too late." The second the door closed, my smile disappeared. I went into his home office and pulled out the old backup phone he kept in a drawer. I turned it on, restored the data, and checked the call logs and text history. The messages started in March. "Vanessa, the proposal got approved today. Want to celebrate over dinner?" "Absolutely. I'll make a reservation at that French place. Just the two of us. Your perfume smelled amazing today. You weren't so bad yourself." I read every single message until tears splashed onto the screen. I bit my lip to keep from making a sound, took screenshots of everything, and emailed them to myself. Then I wiped my face and started packing his things. Suit after suit, shirt after shirt, jacket after jacket, I folded each piece from the closet and placed it in a box. With every item I packed, something inside me went colder. When Jason came home that evening and saw the luggage by the front door, he froze. "What's all this?" "Your things. I packed them for you." "Emily, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Nothing is wrong with me." I sat on the couch and looked up at him. I finally woke up. He pulled out his phone and saw 3 missed calls. I had called his sister. And his mother. His expression changed. "What did you tell my family?" "That you're having an emotional affair with your boss." For 1 second, he stood completely still. The color drained from his face. You can't just go around saying that. Vanessa and I are coworkers. That's all. Really? I opened the screenshots on my phone and read them aloud one by one. You look incredible in that shirt. It makes your waist look so slim. That's how coworkers talk. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Jason, I'm not blind, and I'm not stupid. His voice finally dropped. I lost my head for a while. I wasn't actually planning to do anything with her. An emotional affair is still an affair. We did not speak again that night. I locked myself in the bedroom. He sat in the living room until 3 a.m. and stepped onto the balcony 3 separate times to make phone calls. Through the door, I heard him murmuring, "She knows." Yeah, don't worry. I'll take care of it. Right. The next day, during my lunch break, I bundled the screenshots together and sent them to Vanessa's ex-husband. His last name was Bennett. I had asked around and heard that their divorce had something to do with her inappropriate relationships. I did not identify myself. After I sent everything, I turned off my phone. At 3 that afternoon, Jason called in a panic. The company just pulled me into a meeting. Vanessa and I have both been suspended pending an investigation. Was this you? What do you think? Emily, are you insane? You're going to ruin me. You ruined our family. I ruined one job. Sounds fair to me. He hung up. That evening, an internal notice went out. Jason and Vanessa had both been terminated for serious violations of the company's code of conduct. A friend forwarded the announcement to me. She added, "Something happened to your husband." I stared at the words, and the corner of my mouth slowly lifted. I had the boxes from our house delivered to his mother's place. His sister and younger brother took turns calling to berate me. They said I had gone too far, that Jason had only made one stupid mistake. I did not answer. I blocked them both. His father called and snapped, "Your husband's family has been humiliated, and you think that makes you look good? What kind of wife does that? Mr. Carter, he's your son. If you really want to protect him, stop calling me." I hung up. The last call came from Jason himself. He was drunk and shouting. "Are you happy now? I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my home, everything." I said, "You still have your boss. The two of you belong together." Then I hung up and turned off my phone. The next morning, I picked up my son from preschool and took him to our new home. It was a small, older condo my mother had left me. I had saved some money over the years and renovated it. It was modest, but it was clean, warm, and belonged only to my son and me. My son ran around the living room and asked, "Mommy, are we not going back to Daddy's house anymore?" I crouched down and looked into his eyes. "No. From now on, it's just you and me here." He nodded without fully understanding, then ran off again. I leaned against the doorframe and let out a long breath. My phone lit up. A text had come from an unfamiliar number. I opened it. It read, "Are you really willing to let them off that easily?" I stared at it for a long time. I did not reply. I put the phone down and went to make dinner for my son. But that message landed in my life like a stone tossed into still water. I had already done everything I thought I could do. My husband had lost his job. His boss had lost hers. I had taken my child and left the home that held so much pain. By all logic, it should have been over. Then the phone rang again. A woman's voice came through the line. "Is this Emily Carter? I'm a friend of Vanessa Reed's. I need to talk to you. There are things you may not know." Vanessa's friend? Why was she calling me? To beg on Vanessa's behalf? To threaten me? My grip tightened around the phone. I flipped the ribs in the skillet and covered the pan. The woman on the other end stayed silent for several seconds. "I know you probably think I'm calling to defend Vanessa, but I'm not." Her voice was low and unmistakably tense. I'm her ex-husband's younger sister. My name is Chloe Bennett. I froze. Are you free to meet? She asked. Some things are too complicated to explain over the phone. Every alarm bell in my head went off. I had just brought down Jason and Vanessa, and now Vanessa's ex-husband's sister was asking to meet me? It sounded like a setup. Whatever you have to say it now. Chloe hesitated, then lowered her voice. Vanessa and Jason started 2 years ago. The spatula stopped in my hand. Jason was still working at the regional office near your hometown then. Vanessa arranged his transfer to corporate headquarters. How do you know that? Because my brother was the one who introduced them. It felt as though someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. Say that again. My brother and Vanessa didn't divorce because she had a generally bad reputation, Chloe said, her voice trembling slightly. He caught her involved with one of her subordinates, and the marriage fell apart. At the time, he also had information about financial misconduct on her part. Vanessa begged him not to expose it, so they reached a private divorce settlement and publicly blamed irreconcilable differences. Then why are you telling me now? Because last month, my brother discovered that Jason didn't just get a transfer. He also helped siphon money out of the company through approvals Vanessa signed. Chloe paused. Some of that money was spent on you. That's impossible. My mind flashed through the transfers Jason had sent me over the past 2 years, the gifts, even the new car. He told me all of it came from project bonuses. It didn't, Chloe said. My brother has copies of the financial records. Vanessa approved a $45,000 payment labeled outside project services. The money went to a shell company Jason registered using his cousin's identity. I slowly crouched down, my back against the kitchen counter, my palms slick with sweat. For days, I had thought I had won cleanly and decisively. Now I realized the roots went much deeper. What exactly does the Bennett family want from me? My brother's position is simple, Chloe said. The old accounts still haven't been settled. If you're willing to cooperate, he can help make sure Jason faces the full legal consequences. I did not answer right away. The ribs had begun to scorch. I turned off the burner. What kind of cooperation? You still have the screenshots of their messages, right? Chloe asked. My brother needs your written permission to submit them together with the financial records. Vanessa has several other questionable transactions tied to her. Once the evidence forms a complete chain, this stops being an HR matter and becomes a criminal one. I need time to think. That's fine. Chloe gave me a phone number. This is my brother's work line. Call him when you've decided. Emily, you're a woman who knows her own mind, but in a case like this, being smart isn't enough. You have to be willing to follow through. After the call ended, I sat on the kitchen floor with my head buzzing. My son ran over and leaned against my legs. Mommy, what's wrong? Mommy's thinking about something. Is Daddy coming back? I looked at him and stroked his hair. No. This is our home now, yours and mine. He nodded and ran back to his cartoons. I stood up and called my sister-in-law, my older brother's wife. She was 10 years older than I was and had always been the steady one whenever anything happened in our family. After hearing the story, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Emily, did it ever occur to you that Jason wasn't so generous these past 2 years because he loved you? Maybe it was because he felt guilty. The words went into my heart like a knife. That night, I tossed and turned, checking Jason's social media accounts again and again. The message he had sent Vanessa was gone. But the screenshots of their conversations were still stored in my password-protected photo album. I swiped through them one by one, feeling colder with every page. All the sweet talk. The late-night dates. The endless promises that you deserve better. And all the while, he still kissed me in the morning. Then I reached one screenshot in which Vanessa had written, "Don't touch that money. If anyone audits it, neither of us will get away clean." Jason had replied immediately beneath it, "I know. I've got it under control." Money. There really was money involved. I turned off the phone and lay awake in the darkness. After work the next day, I went to the address Chloe had given me, a quiet cafe with a private booth in the back. A serious-looking man in his early 40s sat waiting for me. He had a square face and wore a charcoal gray jacket. "Mr. Bennett?" I asked cautiously. He stood. "Michael Bennett. Chloe's brother." As soon as we sat down, he got straight to the point. He pulled a thick stack of papers from his briefcase and slid it across the table. They were all copies, company stamps, executive signatures, and wire transfer records. The recipient was a business I had never heard of. Jason's cousin was listed as the owner. Transaction after transaction added up to more than $85,000. "Jason and Vanessa began working together 2 years ago," Michael said. "Through fake vendor contracts, they diverted roughly $90,000. More than $42,000 was funneled into your household as so-called project bonuses and gifts. The rest." He paused. "Vanessa kept almost half." I stared at the numbers, my hands ice cold. "How did you get these records?" "When Vanessa and I divorced, she thought she had hidden everything." Michael lifted his coffee and took a sip. "She forgot I'd spent 15 years in auditing. I can trace every dollar on these pages." "What are you planning to do?" "I prepared a formal whistleblower report with all the supporting evidence. I'm submitting it to corporate headquarters and the state tax authorities." Michael looked directly at me. "But I need the messages you have. They help establish that Jason and Vanessa had a personal relationship outside the scope of their work, which makes the overall pattern much more credible." I stayed quiet for a long time. "Why are you doing this? You're divorced. You could walk away and never look back. Why reopen everything now?" Michael set down his cup. His gaze was calm but unwavering. "When we divorced, I agreed not to expose her because I didn't yet have definitive proof, and because I was thinking about our child. Things are different now. I have the evidence. I can't watch her stuff her pockets with company money and move on to the next person she can exploit." I lowered my eyes and rubbed my fingertips along the edges of the copied documents. "I've seen the screenshots you sent," he said, holding up his phone. "Several of them are significant, especially the one where they discuss the money. That message alone puts them in serious trouble. Sign the authorization, and I'll handle everything from there," he said. I picked up the pen. As the tip touched the paper, 1,000 memories rushed through me. I remembered Jason crying at our wedding. I remembered his eyes turning red outside the delivery room when our son was born. I also remembered all those late nights when he slept with his back to me while his phone glowed in the darkness. I signed my name. Michael gathered the papers. "Investigators may contact you later. Just tell the truth and cooperate. That's all you need to do." "Could they go to prison?" "If the amount and circumstances are proven, yes." By the time I left the cafe, night had fallen. I stood beside the road watching headlights stream past. Suddenly I felt both exhausted and strangely lighter. My phone rang. Jason was calling. I hesitated, then declined the call. He called again. I declined again. A voice message appeared. "Emily, you can hate me all you want, but you can't keep me from seeing my son." I did not answer. Then another message came through. "I'm back. I'm standing outside your building." My head snapped up. I stood outside the cafe, car headlights stinging my tired eyes. He was back, standing outside my building. The words lodged between my ribs like a dull blade. Painful, but not fatal. I tightened my grip on the phone and left the message unanswered. Instead of heading home, I walked in the opposite direction. My son was staying with my mother that night, which gave me time to think clearly. After walking for 10 minutes, I found a corner seat inside a convenience store and called Michael. "Jason is back. He's looking for me." Michael was silent for a moment. "He probably hasn't heard about the report yet." I'll finish organizing the evidence tonight and submit it first thing tomorrow morning. For now, keep him calm. How am I supposed to do that? If he wants to see his son, let him, Michael said in a low voice. You already have the screenshots and the financial documents. As long as Jason keeps showing his hand in ordinary life, we may gain more evidence and more leverage. After the call, I sat there for a long time. The convenience store's harsh white lights made it feel as though there was nowhere to hide. I took a deep breath and finally replied to Jason, our son is at my mother's. You can pick him up tomorrow afternoon. His response came almost instantly. Okay. 2:00. Then he added, Emily, can we please sit down and talk like adults? I stared at the words for a long time before typing one answer, tomorrow. I stayed at my mother's house that night. After she got my son to sleep, she sat beside me on the couch and held my hand for a long time. Her eyes were red. That bastard. I can't believe we were so wrong about him. Mom, don't make yourself sick over this. I'll deal with it. How are you supposed to handle all of this alone? Her voice shook. What if he refuses to pay child support? How will you raise a child by yourself? I can work. We won't starve. My sister-in-law sat nearby and said softly, Emily has been handling this with a clear head. Let her do what she needs to do. My mother sighed, her eyes filling again. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the messages, the transfer records, and the thick stack of evidence Michael had placed in front of me. It wasn't exactly fear. It was more like a weight pressing so hard against my chest that I could barely breathe. Just before dawn, I picked up my phone and found Vanessa's number. I hesitated for 2 or 3 seconds, then called. To my surprise, she answered. Hello? A hoarse woman's voice came through. She clearly had not slept much either. Vanessa, it's Emily. Silence. Jason's wife. After a few seconds, her voice turned cold. I know who you are. What do you want? I know everything about you and Jason. That's his problem. It has nothing to do with me. I laughed. You've been sneaking around with him for 2 years, and you're telling me it has nothing to do with you? Do you have proof? Her voice rose sharply. A few screenshots don't prove we had an inappropriate relationship. Do you realize I could sue you for invading my privacy? What about the money? The line went silent. The $45,000 outside services payment you approved. The shell company registered under Jason's cousin's name. I spoke slowly, one word at a time. Would you like me to read the transaction details to you? The silence stretched noticeably longer. Emily, what exactly do you want? I want to know what else you're holding over him. What are you talking about? I don't believe this ends with an affair and a fake vendor payment. You must have something else on Jason. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so loyal to you. Vanessa was quiet for several seconds, then gave a cold little laugh. You're smarter than he thinks. So? So ask him yourself. She ended the call. I stared at the screen, the tension inside me tightening another turn. Her tone made one thing obvious, there was more. At 2 that afternoon, I stood outside my mother's apartment building with my son in my arms. Jason's car was parked at the curb. He wore a white dress shirt, and his hair was neatly combed. He looked more put together than he had in days. Daddy! My son ran toward him. Jason crouched and pulled him into his arms. His eyes immediately filled with tears. I stood several feet away watching them, unable to name what I felt. Jason buckled our son into his car seat, then straightened and looked at me. Get in. I want to find somewhere quiet so we can talk. I climbed into the passenger seat. He drove to the parking garage of a nearby shopping center. Our son fell asleep in the back. Jason turned down the air conditioning, then shifted toward me. Emily, I was wrong. I said nothing. I really was wrong. His voice was low. For the past 6 months, it was like I wasn't myself. I don't even know what came over me. Please forgive me just this once. Jason, do you know what I found out last night? He stiffened. What? You and Vanessa weren't just flirting. You stole money from the company. His face changed instantly. Who told you that? It doesn't matter who told me. I held his gaze. This is no longer just about you losing your job. You're under suspicion for embezzlement. His mouth opened, but for a long moment no sound came out. You're working with him. She made me do it, he suddenly hissed. Vanessa told me no one would question a payment she approved. She said if I cooperated, she could get me promoted and raise my salary. So you did it. His jaw tightened. I wasn't thinking straight back then. You're still not, I said coldly. He fell silent. The car was so quiet that the only sound was our son's soft breathing in the back seat. Emily, what are you going to do? I've already turned over the evidence. His face went completely white. Are you out of your mind? If this gets out, I could go to prison. Why didn't that occur to you when you were doing it? He gripped the steering wheel with both hands. His knuckles turned white, and his breathing grew faster. Take it back, he said, his voice shaking. I'll turn myself in. I'll find an ordinary job. I'll come home and make things right. I swear I'll never do anything like this again. Jason, there is no going back for us. Why not? He looked up, his eyes bloodshot. I can buy another house. I can find another job. If you'll forgive me, I'll change anything, I cut him off. Before our son fell asleep, he called for you twice. Jason froze. But he was asking whether Daddy was ever coming back. He wasn't asking whether Daddy was nearby. Jason opened his mouth, then closed it again. I opened the door, lifted my sleeping son from the back seat, and walked away. Jason did not follow. After I had gone several dozen yards, a heavy thud sounded behind me, as though he had slammed his fist into the steering wheel. I did not look back. That evening, Michael sent me a message. The report has been submitted. Corporate headquarters will open an internal investigation tomorrow morning, and the state tax authorities received the same evidence. I stared at it for a long time before replying, understood. A little after 1 a.m, my phone rang again. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered, and a man's low voice said, Ms. Carter, I'm Vanessa Reed's boyfriend. I blinked in surprise. There are some things I'd like to discuss with you in person. I sat on the edge of the bed gripping the phone. Night air drifted through the open window, stirring the curtains. How did you get my number? It was in Vanessa's phone, he said calmly. She was in a terrible state this afternoon and said a lot about you and Jason. I get the sense there are still things none of you fully understand. Such as? Such as the money Jason transferred to her. He paused. $25,000. The note said settlement payment. My fingers clamped around the edge of the phone. When? 5 days ago. My mind exploded. 5 days ago? At that point, the screenshots I had sent Michael were still fresh, and Jason had been on his knees crying and begging me to forgive him. Yet he had still transferred Vanessa $25,000. The man added, and the money came out of your account. Blood rushed to my head. What did you say? Check your bank history, he said. He didn't steal your card or physically take anything. He used an old trick, your personal information and a copy of your ID, to open an additional debit card linked to your account. My entire body went rigid. The dim light from the phone screen washed across my face. Money had left my account. $25,000. It had gone to my husband, and then to his mistress. I slowly lowered the phone and stared at the dark ceiling. The wind continued blowing outside. All at once, my little renovated condo felt colder than before. I held the phone and barely slept. Near dawn, I replayed every word the man had said until I could not stand it anymore. I opened my banking app and reviewed 6 months of transactions, one by one. When I reached the end of the previous month, my hand stopped. There it was, a $25,000 transfer to an account name I had never seen, labeled renovation expense. Renovation? We had not renovated anything. I opened the transaction details. The device used to authorize it matched the model of Jason's phone. It felt as though a fist had closed around my heart. The moment daylight came, I called Michael. As soon as the sun came up, I called Michael. He transferred $25,000 out of your account? Michael's voice rose. You're certain it came from your money? I saw the transaction myself. It was labeled renovation expense. My hand shook around the phone. But we haven't done any renovations. Where are you right now? Stay there. I'm coming to you. Half an hour later, Michael pulled up outside my new condo in a black sedan. He carried a stack of printed bank records. When I took them, I saw everything laid out in black and white, the date the additional card had been opened in my name, the activation time, the phone number attached to it, and every transaction made with it. The card had been opened 3 months earlier. The activation number belonged to a second phone Jason had never told me about. That call from Vanessa's boyfriend exposed the entire trail, Michael said, flipping through the pages. Your husband used a copy of your ID and your personal information to get an additional card linked to your account. He registered his own phone to receive the security codes, which effectively gave him full access to the funds available under your name. The $25,000 went out on the 28th of last month. Michael ran a finger down the statement. Not long afterward, it landed in an account connected to Vanessa. They routed it through 2 other accounts, but the trail is still visible. Can we submit this as evidence? Yes, but we'll need to reorganize the file. He looked up at me. Emily, I also need to be honest. Whether the card can legally be treated as something he opened without authorization may be disputed, because you were still married and shared household finances. My chest felt blocked with anger. I could not sit still. Then my phone rang. It was my mother. Emily, get over here. Jason's father brought several men to my apartment. He says they're taking your son. I shot to my feet. What? Please hurry, I heard pounding on a door and my son crying in the background. I ran outside. Michael followed me. I'll drive you. Halfway there, I called Jason. It rang 5 or 6 times before he answered. Your father is at my mother's apartment trying to take my son. Did you know about this? There was a pause. Jason's voice came back low. I knew. Did you send him? No. He heard you reported me and got angry. He went there on his own. So being angry gives him the right to kidnap my child? I was almost screaming. Emily, calm down. Jason, if there's any decency left in you, call your father and make him leave. Otherwise, I'm calling the police. He paused. Emily, do you really have to destroy everything? Did you worry about destroying everything when you cheated? When you used my money to support your mistress? When your father brought men to take our child? The line went silent. You have 10 minutes. I ended the call. When we reached my mother's apartment complex, I saw a white van parked outside. A man in his 60s stood near the entrance with 2 middle-aged men beside him. They were my father-in-law, Frank Carter, and Jason's older brother, Daniel. Emily. The moment Frank saw me, he stormed over, nearly jabbing his finger into my face. You have the nerve to come back? You cost my son his job, and now you're trying to send him to prison. What kind of person are you? I stood on the front steps and looked at him. You know exactly what your son did. Even if he made mistakes, he's still your husband. You're his wife. You should be helping him, not reporting him. I'm not arguing with you. Give me my son and leave. I'm taking the boy today. Frank turned and shouted at Daniel. Go upstairs and knock again. Don't you dare. I moved in front of the entrance. Michael stepped up beside me. "Mr. Carter, if you force your way inside, I'm calling the police." Frank glared at him. "And who the hell are you?" "I'm helping Emily with the investigation. Your son is under review for financial crimes. If you create a disturbance now, law enforcement may reasonably view it as witness intimidation or an attempt to destroy evidence." Frank's expression shifted. Behind him, Daniel hesitated and stopped walking. At that moment, Jason called. Frank answered. As he listened, his face grew darker. "What? The tax investigators actually showed up? Are you sure?" He lowered the phone and gave me a vicious look. "You've got some nerve, Emily. You're ruthless." I stared back without saying a word. He clenched his jaw and waved at Daniel. "Let's go." The van pulled away. I leaned against the building entrance, my legs so weak I nearly collapsed. Michael caught my arm. "It's over. You're safe." I went upstairs. When I opened the door, my mother was sitting on the couch holding my son, her eyes red. He seemed all right and was pushing a toy car back and forth across the floor. "Mom, it's okay now." She handed him to me, then went into the kitchen, saying she would make me some soup. I sat on the couch with my son in my arms. The fire inside me had not gone out, but beneath it was a deeper sadness I could not put into words. I had never imagined Jason would use our child as leverage. That evening, Michael sent me a digital copy of the supplemental evidence file. He said corporate headquarters had formally opened a case and tax investigators had begun requesting Vanessa's financial records from the previous 3 years. I replied, "Okay." Night pressed against the windows. My son was already asleep. I sat on the living room couch scrolling through the screenshots on my phone. My finger stopped on one of them. It was a seemingly insignificant exchange between Jason and Vanessa from February. Vanessa had written, "You are not to tell anyone about that money. Not even your wife." Jason replied, "What would she know? She's just a stay-at-home mom." I stared at the sentence for a long time. So that was all I was to him, a stay-at-home mother. A woman who understood nothing, could do nothing, and would never notice anything. I turned off the screen and sat in the darkness. Suddenly, everything that had happened that day seemed almost secondary. What hurt most was realizing that, deep down, he had never respected me. I slept very little that night. My mind kept circling back to everything that had happened. I reread every message Jason had sent, and each one made my heart colder. A little after 3 in the morning, my phone lit up again. Chloe had texted, "Emily, are you awake?" "Yes." "I have some bad news." My stomach dropped. "Tell me." After Vanessa was questioned this afternoon, she changed her story. Now she claims every payment between her and Jason was a loan, and that she has a signed promissory note. "What?" "She also says your signature is on it." I bolted upright in bed. "That's impossible. I never signed any promissory note." "She says it was signed near the end of last year. The amount is $25,000, which lines up perfectly with the transfer." She's fabricating evidence. Whether she's lying isn't the immediate problem. If she can produce a note bearing your signature, the money may be characterized as a marital loan rather than an unauthorized transfer. Jason could avoid the most serious charge, and you might be left responsible for the debt. I gripped the phone as blood rushed to my head. How could she possibly have my signature? She probably doesn't have a genuine one. But what if she forged it? I sat in bed with cold sweat covering my back. My mind raced through every document I had signed over the previous year, contracts, forms, delivery receipts, even my son's preschool enrollment paperwork. Jason had access to so many of them. That was when I finally understood, this fight was not over. I picked up my phone and called Michael. It rang for a long time before he answered. "Hello? Michael, can you help me investigate something?" "Tell me." I need to know whether Jason signed anything in my name from the end of last year until now, especially anything involving loans or financial guarantees. You think? Vanessa claims I signed a promissory note. I don't know whether it exists or whether it's forged. But if it is forged, there has to be a flaw somewhere. The line was quiet for a few seconds. Understood. Tomorrow I'll obtain copies of the contracts and archived documents Jason handled and arrange a handwriting comparison. Michael paused. Emily, you're calmer than you realize. Because if I fall apart, no one else is going to carry this for me. After we hung up, I lay back down and stared at the ceiling. Did the promissory note really exist? And if it did it truly bear my signature? I closed my eyes and saw Jason's face. The face I had once believed I could trust for the rest of my life. Slowly, I clenched my fist. Dawn was approaching. The first pale light slipped through the gap in the curtains and fell across the floor. I got dressed, walked into the living room, and opened the curtains. The path below was empty except for a few sparrows hopping from branch to branch. A new day had begun. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Michael. I found something. Last November, Jason signed a financial guarantee agreement in your name. The beneficiary was a consulting studio Vanessa registered. The amount was $28,000. The guarantor line carried my name in bold, unmistakable letters, Emily Carter. My heart sank completely. I stood at the bright window clutching my phone, unable to move. A flock of pigeons passed outside, their wings loud in the morning stillness. I enlarged the photograph of the guarantee agreement. At first glance, the signature looked like mine. But the capital E was too rounded, and the tail on the final Y curved the wrong way. I never finished my signature like that. I zoomed in and studied it 3 times before messaging Michael. Jason signed it for me. His reply came quickly. You're certain? Absolutely. I finished the Y in Emily with a short upward stroke. This signature loops backward. I never do that. After several seconds, Michael replied, good. Then this agreement may be our breakthrough. I'll package it with the transaction history from the additional card and submit everything together. I turned off the phone and slowly sat down. Anger, humiliation, and grief rolled through me, but beneath all of it was a nearly numb clarity. Jason had begun planning around me long before I realized anything was wrong. At noon, I brought my son back to our new home. We had barely walked inside when someone knocked. I looked through the peephole. It was Jason. He stood in the hallway with messy hair and red-rimmed eyes. He was still wearing yesterday's white shirt, now wrinkled and limp. I did not open the door. After knocking for a while, he finally stopped and slid down against the doorframe. Through the door, I heard his hoarse voice. Emily. I know I was wrong. I really do. I did not respond. He continued, can't you withdraw the evidence? I'll turn myself in. I'll confess. I'll do anything you ask, I spoke quietly. Jason, when you forged my signature and made me guarantee Vanessa's business, did you ever imagine this day would come? The hallway went silent. After a long time, he answered in a shaking voice, I never wanted to do that. She forced me. No one can force you to commit a crime unless you are willing to do it. He fell completely silent. A few seconds later, I heard him slowly stand. Then his footsteps faded down the hallway. I leaned back against the door, closed my eyes, and struggled to steady my breathing. My son ran out of his room holding a toy car. Mommy, why didn't you let Daddy come in? I crouched and looked into his eyes. Because Daddy did something very wrong. Will he come again? When you miss him, Mommy will make sure you can see him. He tilted his head, thought about it, nodded, and ran back to play. The afternoon was unusually quiet. I cleaned the condo, did the laundry, and made lunch for my son. Michael sent no more messages, and I did not press him. Near sunset, Chloe called. Emily, you need to brace yourself. Her voice was heavier than usual. I carried the phone onto the balcony. What happened? Vanessa tried to take her own life this afternoon. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. What? She cut her wrists in the apartment she was renting. A neighbor found her and called an ambulance. The doctors saved her, but she's still in intensive care. I stood frozen as the wind struck my face. Why would she do that? No one knows, Chloe said. People are saying the combined pressure of the corporate investigation and the tax inquiry became too much for her. I held the phone but could not speak. I truly had hated her. Yet hearing this filled me with an emotion too complicated to name. How is she now? She's alive, but the doctors say she isn't completely out of danger. I ended the call and stood on the balcony watching the sun sink beneath the horizon. The anger inside me seemed to scatter in the wind. It was not forgiveness. It was something more complicated, the realization that, after everything had gone this far, no one had won. That evening, I sat in the living room staring into space for a long time. My phone lit up again. Michael had written, "All supplemental evidence has been submitted. Given what happened to Vanessa, senior management will pay closer attention, and the investigation will probably move faster." I replied, "Okay." That night, I turned off the lights and lay on the couch with the blanket pulled to my chin, listening to the wind outside. I suddenly remembered the first tiny apartment Jason and I had rented after we got married. It had been almost this small. Back then, we squeezed together on a queen-size bed, and he held me close and said, "Emily, I swear I'll spend my whole life treating you right." The promise still echoed in my memory, but the man who had made it had become someone I no longer recognized. I closed my eyes in the darkness. After a long time, I rolled onto my side. Tomorrow would be another new day. Early the next morning, a phone call woke me. An unfamiliar woman's voice said, "May I speak with Ms. Emily Carter? I'm calling from the Riverton County Detention Center. Jason Carter turned himself in last night, and you are the first person he asked us to contact."